I've been gone for a little while because I've been working on some recording projects, particularly mastering projects, and I have a bit of a story to tell you before I segue into the particulars of what I've been doing. Um, I started out many years ago on GarageBand, as did a lot of you, and did quite a lot of good work on there. I find it quite a usable tool, and quite a few famous albums have been made on GarageBand, so there's no shame in that. I, like most people, moved on to Logic, and the last few projects I've done have been with Logic. However, some while after that, I started having problems with my Apple ID. It kept getting flagged for some reason. I kept having to change the password. It became a real problem. It's one of the things I really despise Apple about is the whole Apple ID sort of authoritarianism around the having that piece of coding. Um, Google does it as well. It annoys me. So yeah, I had problems like with the password. It kept getting corrupted. I had to change it various times, and then eventually Apple um, they just banned my email for that for that Apple ID. Now you can make another one. However, I had made the purchase for Logic with that Apple ID. So when I went back, you know, I lost that computer. Sorry, let me rephrase it better. I lost that computer and recently cycled onto a new one and went to re-download Logic. And because I've changed my Apple ID um, email, they won't let me have it. They're telling me I have to pay for Logic again, which is quite a bit of money. Like what is it, like $130 or something like that? And I'm loath to do that. I've already paid for it once, so I said, well, to hell with Apple. Um, I'll try something similar. So I did some research, and I found that it's probably, I don't know if it's true or not, but to my eyes, it seemed like the most similar thing to Logic in the way the layout, the interface, the way it looks, was Reaper. So I downloaded Reaper, found out that you can have a trial of Reaper for as long as you want. And all they do is ask you to pay for the full license, which you have as long as you want. You can stay on the trial forever if you want, if you just want to deal with the prompts. So I've used it on a couple of mastering projects, mixing mastering projects now. It's been a bit techy to learn. It's been a bit challenging. There are just some nuances in there. I won't go into detail, but there are some nuances in there that you keep making the same mistake. It took me a while to sort of get things down, the layout, the way things work, the shortcuts, that sort of thing. But it does a very, very similar job to what I can tell to Logic. The only downside to Reaper, which is not much of a downside really, but it might be for some of you, is that Reaper doesn't come with all the software instruments and effects that's built into Logic. So you have to go and find third party downloads for all that. Now, at first that was annoying, but in a way I ended up being kind of glad because I had an array of synthesizer and software instruments that I'd become perhaps over reliant on. And this sort of cleans the palette, and maybe my future recordings will get a sort of generation in new sound. And also perhaps I can get back to being more into analog instruments and not rely on MIDI patches and software instruments. And I had the whole jam pack thing. I had the whole orchestral suite. I had the folk instrument suite. I had various synthesizer softwares that were built into Logic that I've used. I did at least 2 or 3 purely classical orchestral type albums in which I used the either the Logic orchestral instruments or the garage band jam packs. Um, you know, sort of played around with them, panned them like an orchestra on the recording field, that sort of thing, and it was fun. But now, instead of going back to that and keep using those sounds, now I'm forced to sort of look for new ones. So it might actually be good in the long run. But that's kind of where my head's been at lately. All of the spare time I've had. I mean, I've still been doing the odd guitar setup and repair, but a lot of time has been spent sort of playing around with this new software. I also in the process lost all of my Adobe Creative Suite software, because it was all older software on an older machine, and when I went to a newer machine, it didn't work anymore, and I didn't want to buy all that either again, because it's quite expensive. So I've been exploring other things like GIMP, Inkwell, Ink something. Yeah, sort of some more alternative software packages for graphics and for sound, and I've even got a new video editor as well. God knows what it's called. Might be able to tell you in a second. Hang on. Okay, I just checked. Inkscape, GIMP, CapCut. I've been playing around with. So the last 3 or 4 videos, including this one, I've been edited with that. I don't do a lot of editing, as you can tell, but I do some. So I've had this sort of period of updating and refreshing myself with different software, changing my toolbox a little bit, because what I was working with in the first place was quite expensive, and then I thought extortionate to replace. The thing with Apple also really annoyed me, paying for Logic twice. I couldn't bring myself to do that on principle. So I shifted to one of their competitors, who I think have a much kinder way of doing business, and that they let you try the full program, the full app, and then they rely on your good grace, if you find it valuable, to buy a full license, which I fully intend to do, by the way. I'm not just going to keep using it as a free prototype. I will actually, because if there's something that I can use, I'm happy to support that company or that designer. The same with some of the other software that I use. If I like it, I stick with it for a while, I'll send the developer, sometimes they just have a donation thing, like a PayPal thing. I'll send them what I think is a reasonable amount, for the use of that software, because it is helping me, obviously, with my various creative projects. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been up to. If you haven't seen a video updated for a while, I've had my head into a new laptop computer, and have been learning new software packages. I've got a new studio to work with here, so I've got the creative juices flowing again. I wanted to put some more music out, do some more writing, things that I had gotten away from in recent time, because I was sharing a house with 5 other people, and there just wasn't any space to do a lot of this stuff. So now I'm in an empty nest again, which in a way is sad, because I get along really, really well with my adult children, but they've moved on to other things and other opportunities, and this is an opportunity for me, with a bit more space to develop a few things. So I've been pushing my time and efforts into that realm, which I'm sure will bleed through onto this channel at some point in various manifestations. So yeah, let me know if you have any thoughts on all that. I do consult chat sites and Reddit and things like that for stuff on this. So I looked up a lot of testimonials on Reaper, Cakewalk, all of the um, competitors for Logic and Pro Tools that are available these days. I can't think of all of them. Reason. There are some newer ones too. There was actually a really helpful video on YouTube where some bloke does the same project in, I think, 7 or 8 different DAWs, DAWs, and then he does a video about his experience in working with those programs, which I found really, really helpful. Really, really helpful. And I decided on Reaper. So I'm going to work with that for a while and see how it goes. And if you're interested, I can share links to various projects that I'm hoping to put out in the near future. All right, folks. Hope that's interesting to you. Hopefully we'll have some guitars, ukuleles, basses, maybe another accordion. Who knows? Who knows what's coming? We'll keep it flowing though. See you.